Okay, so we're going to do the drill sheet for lesson 26. This is on the Nifal stem. And you're going to parse each form, identifying the 3 root letters and then what the stem is. And then if you can identify prefixes and suffixes, we can determine which conjugation pattern it follows in the Nifal. There might be some other stem forms in here just to help distinguish the Nifal from the Cal. So let's look at the first one. We have for number 1, Nishmanu. Nishmatnu. So if you take a look at that, you want to first of all try to identify the 3 root letters when you're parsing. What are the 3 root letters here? It's really important to identify those so that you can see what's attached on the outside. So for the root letters we have Sheen, Mem, and Ayin, which is the idea of hearing. And then we have a prefix Nun on the front end. And after root 3, we have the ending nu. So this could be indicative of a first common plural in the imperfect. But I have a problem here. I have a nu ending way over here. And so that might mean that this is something else, huh? What might we have if I've got a prefix nun and then a nu ending here? This could be a Nifal perfect. So again, look at your principal parts page real quickly, will you? The principal parts page gives us the forms of the Nifal. So the perfect is this row right here for all the stems. Notice that the Nifal perfect is characterized by a Nifal nun. So prefix nuns could now be doing one of 2 things. They could signal the Nifal stem, or they could be an imperfect 1CP. Nutty prefix. Nutty prefixes are for the imperfect, and the jussives and the Vayiktals or WCIs. Nifal nuns have nothing to do with we. It just means it's the Nifal stem. Okay? So what are the possible endings for the Nifal perfect? Well, they're the same endings on any of the perfects that you've learned, and you know that by the chart on the back. Along with my prefix nun, in all forms of the Nifal perfect, I'm going to have these perfect personal endings, okay? So if I had a prefix nun and a nu at the end, then I might be looking at a Nifal perfect first common plural, okay? So let's take a look at that form again. You see Nishmatnu here. Am I expecting a Keurig under the nun for a Nifal perfect prefix nun? Yeah, Nifkad is my paradigm form, my model form in the principal parts for the Nifal perfect, Nifkad. And that has a Keurig under the nun and a silent Shiva here under root 1. That's what I've got, Nish, right? Nish, and I've got Nifkad, Nishma, but then I have the nu ending here. So that certainly looks like that could be, for the verb Shema, a Nifal perfect 1CP. If I assumed that it was an imperfect 1CP, then I have a problem with what's dangling on the back side of this, because the imperfect 1CP has no ending, right? Okay. Now how am I going to translate this? Shema in the Cal means what? To hear. So in the Nifal, it might make to hear what? Yeah, passive, to be heard. And so what's the subject here? 1CP is we. Is the perfect usually past or non-past? Yeah, we're usually going to translate that past. So we want to make it past, and then because it's Nifal, passive. We were heard. Okay? We were heard. Contrast that with the Cal perfect, Shema nu. Do you see the difference between Shemanu and Nishmanu? Shamanu is the Cal perfect, we heard. Nishmatnu, we were heard. Okay? From switching from Cal to Nifal, I've made it passive. All right? Anybody have any questions about that? Let's go on to the next one, okay? Oh, actually, here, let me just change this up. Actually, I already did. Let's take nishmat tem in number 2. I have the same shema roots. I have the same nifal noon prefix. And now I have tem on the back side here. Does that look like the perfect still? The tem ending? Yeah, that's part of my perfect personal endings. Which perfect personal endings is that? Yeah, it's perfect 2MP. Look, just by knowing tem, you have gotten almost all the parsing done. That's almost all the points you would get on a quiz for that parsing, right? You know the root letters, Shema, don't you? So you could tell me that too. And the only thing that you don't know at this point is what stem it is. And how would you figure out the stem? Well, if it's the cowl, it doesn't have a prefix at all, does it? And in the nifal, it always has a nifal noon for its nifal perfect. Okay? In fact, look at the principal parts page again. How many of the nifal's principal parts actually have the prefix nifal noon visible before root 1? Where do you see the nifal noon? Okay, well, the first place is the perfect, right? Where do you see it? Ah, wow, look, it's missing in all these other places. The participle, and then one of the possible infinitive absolute forms. So that's it. Everywhere else, what has the noon done? It has assimilated. It's in root 1, where there's a dagesh forte. You see the dagesh forte in the pay? All right. So the nifal perfect will have that nifal noon. The nifal prefix noon, along with the tem personal ending, that tells me that I should parse this as a nifal perfect 2MP. Now the subject is going to be 2MP, so who's that? You or y'all. Perfect will be typically what time frame? Past. And if the verb can be active and transitive, take a direct object in the cowl to hear something, then in the nifal, it can be made passive in meaning. So y'all were heard. Okay? Y'all were heard. So nishmat nu, we were heard. Nishmat tem, y'all were heard. How would I translate nishmati with the T ending? I was heard. Good. Nishma'u, third common plural ending. They were heard. Excellent. What about just nishma with no ending? He was heard. Good. Nishma'ah, she was heard. Good. Nishma'at with a tav and a silent shiva. You were heard, and the you is a woman. Okay? And nishmanu again is we were heard. Okay, excellent. You see how this works? Once you've got the basic perfect form, nishma, just add the personal endings for the different people who could be heard. Okay? All right. Let's look at number 3, yishamer. Yishamer. Say that with me. Yishamer? Okay, do you see an identifiable root letters for a verb? Yes, shamar. And what do I have preceding the sheen? I have a yod. Now, is that a nifal prefix, like the kind of prefix that indicates a nifal stem? No, because the nifal stem's prefix is what? It's a noon, okay? This yod is a prefix, but it's not a nifal prefix, is it? It is an imperfect prefix. It's an imperfect prefix that indicates the subject of the imperfect kind of verb. So, what's a prefix yod with no ending after root 3? 3ms. So, without even knowing which stem this is, I could parse this as an imperfect 3ms. And I have my 3 root letters. So, I would normally give you like 3 points for a quiz for a question like this. You would have 2.5 points already earned just by knowing, well, just by knowing what? Just by knowing this deal right here. where'd it go? Come on, baby. There you are. Just by knowing that in the imperfect, a prefix yod and no ending with your 3 root letters is imperfect 3ms. Okay? This is why knowing this sort of information is so important. You can always identify the subject, can't you? So I know that whatever this means, it means something like he will, right, for the imperfect. And I just don't know, is it active or passive? What stem is it? I've got to look at the vowel pointing and determine what I've got here. Now, is this the cal imperfect? No. In the cal imperfect, what would I be looking for vowel points? Yeah, it'd be holem with root 2, and what would be under root 1? Shava. What kind? A silent. Yishmor, like yif code, right? Yif code, yishmor. So this is not yishmor. This is yishamer with the doubling dot in root 1. What does that look like? That looks like the Nifal imperfect, right? So that means I got to ask myself, in the cal, does this verb have an active meaning, and could it take a direct object? Shamar, to keep or guard. Could I have a direct object with that? Yeah, to keep a banana, right? To guard a wallet. So this is the verb that's transitive and active in the cal. So if I made it Nifal and made it passive, that would make sense, right? So he will what? Be kept or be guarded. Okay? He will be kept or he will be guarded. Now, let's just switch out the yod and put a noon here. Nishamer. Nishamer. It's still a Nifal imperfect, but it's not 3ms. It's what? It's 1CP. How would you translate that? Nishamer. Yeah, just change the subject. We will be kept. What about changing it to an aleph instead of a noon? Ishamer or eshamer. That'd be 1CS, and then it would mean I will be kept. Excellent. How about Yishamaru? The yod is there, but I have a shurik at the end. Yishamaru would be 3MP, and the subject is they. So they will be kept. All right? See how this works? Okay, good. Look at number 4. I have nishmar. Nishmar. And you see 3 root letters? Yeah, there's shamar again, right? Good. That's easy. Now, I have a noon in front of shamar. So if that's an imperfect prefix, it's which person, gender, number? Yeah. If it's imperfect, it's 1CP. Is that the cal imperfect 1CP of shamar? It's not, because the cal imperfect would look like this on the front end, but what would the theme vowel or the root 2 vowel be? Holem. Nishmor. Right? Like nif code. Nishmor. Nishmor. So cal imperfect 1CP. I'll just jot that down here. Nishmor. Okay, looking for a holem most of the time. Unless I've got a guttural, then it can get a pathak. Or if it's a stative verb, it could have a pathak with root 2. Okay? But otherwise, I'm looking for holem. This is nishmar with a pathak, an A-class vowel under root 2. Is that characteristic of the Nifal stem somewhere? Yeah. Which Nifal principal part has a prefix noon? Well, there are 3, right? So if this is Nifal, I have 3 possibilities. What? Perfect, participle, or infinitive absolute. Now, which one of these forms has this vowel pattern with a short a pathak, a short a vowel under root 2? Only the perfect. The participle's close, but look at the participle line under the Nifal. What do I have? The participle has a kametz, which is a long vowel, and I told you it is irreducibly long in my overview of the chapter. In the Nifal participle, that kametz, that long A, never reduces, never shortens, never goes to vocal shava. The short A is the perfect. So it can't be the participle. And the infinitive absolutes form with the prefix noon is not nishma or nishmar, but nishmor. It would have a holam or a holam bob there, right? So it doesn't match the vowel pattern there. So it's a Nifal perfect. Once you decide that this is a Nifal perfect, then which perfect personal ending is 0? 3ms, exactly. So how will I translate this? He, perfect will be usually what time frame? Past. Nifal will be passive. So he was kept. Good. Or guarded. All right? Good. Number 5, we have nishamer. Nishamer. You see 3 root letters? Yeah. Now, you might say, hey, I'm just going to be really difficult with Dr. Marshall, and I'm just going to assume that the first 3 consonants I see are my root letters. Noon, shin, mem. Nashim. Whatever that would mean. I would say, well, good for you, but which verb personal ending is just a resh hanging on the end? We don't have any personal endings. Are there any pronominal suffixes that just are a resh? No. Okay, so we wouldn't want to go there, would we? We would rather say, look, let's assume shamar is your verb roots, and then a noon prefix sure makes a whole lot of sense for a verbal form, doesn't it? Okay, good. Now, here's the question. Is the noon you're seeing, is that the Nifal stem noon? Or is it the 1CP noon? Now how do you know that? Yes, I've got a Dagesh forte here that represents the Nifal stem noon that's assimilated. So this noon is the prefix consonant that goes before, all right? So this is the imperfect 1CP. And then with the rest of the vowel pointing, Dagesh forte under root 1, kamet, sere, that is a Nifal imperfect kind of vowel pointing, isn't it? So we can identify that. And then how am I going to translate this? We, imperfect, will make it passive, be kept. Okay? Good. Any questions about this? Make sense? All right. Look at number 6. I have nishmarti. Nishmarti. You bunch of schmarties. I have my same root letters. Noon on the front end. T on the back. What's that look like? T in the perfect, right? So you see T, that's always perfect and not 1CP, 1CS. Excellent. So you know whatever this means, the subject is I, right? And if it's perfect, usually I was something or I did something, depending on whether it's active or passive. Look at the noon prefix. That's going to tell me this is not the cal, is it? The cal would just be shamarti, like pakadti, shamarti. This is nishmarti, so this is the Nifal perfect of shamar. I'm not going to write it over again. So I was kept. Excellent. Passive. All right. Number 7. Eshamer. Eshamer. What are my root letters? Shamar. Good. And this aleph you see is what? It's 1CS for which conjugation? Imperfect. Good. So we've almost got it parsed, don't we? Which stem? Is this the cal imperfect? Nope. It's the Nifal. Cal would have the sigol here under the aleph, but under root 1 it would be silent shiva, right? Esh what? Esh more. I'd have the silent shiva under root 1, holam with root 2, and no doubling dot. So compare. Eshmor, I will keep. Eshamer, I will be kept. Nifal. Yes.
If the rich is a guttural, why in the imperfect does it not have the
Yeah, good question. So the resh is basically a guttural wannabe, right? So in some cases it will take on guttural behavior, in other cases it won't. This is one where it's gonna be okay with an a without an a vowel. A real guttural, it would change that. All right, very good. Let's look at number 8. I have nifkadu. Say that with me, nifkadu. So with nifkadu, I've got a shurik at the end of my 3 root letters here, right? I've got pakad, and then I have a noon prefix. So here, we might say, prefix noon. The thing you normally associate that with is what? Imperfect 1CP, right? But is there a form that we have learned with a noon prefix and a shurik at the end of it? Not for the imperfect, right? Not for the 1CP prefix noon. So I've got to think that might be a Nifal noon. And if it's a Nifal noon, what are my 3 Nifal forms that have prefix noons visible? Perfect, participle, and infinitive absolute. Good. Shurik at the end. Does the participle ever take a shurik at the end? Nope. And if you're not sure, look, there's your participle endings. No shuriks over here, huh? Okay. Only the adjective endings. Because a participle is a verbal adjective. Oh, I love you. Wonderful. Let's go with the Nifal perfect. If it's the Nifal perfect, then it's got to be one of these forms with a shurik. And which one is it? The 3CP. Exactly. We're going to go with Nifal perfect. Infinitive absolute, remember that one never takes anything on the backside of it. It's completely and totally uninflected. So Nifal perfect 3CP. So the subject is they. And then if it's Nifal, pakad, we got to put our root letters down here. What does it mean? They were appointed. Passive, right? Because the cow could be active and transitive. They appointed someone. Okay? Make it passive. They were appointed. Okay, number 9. Tippakadna. Tippakadna. What's my root letters? Pakad. Good. And look, I have a prefix tav on one end, na on the other. Does that look like something you know? That's clearly imperfect. And 2 possibilities. 3 FP, 2 FP. Okay, could be they or y'all female. All right, what I don't know is what stem it is. Can you tell me? Is it visibly clear? Yeah? The tippa is what I'm looking for, right? The cal imperfect, 3 FP and 2 FP, would also have the t, but not what? Not the doubling dot and not the kamets. It would be just a simple silent shiva. Tif kodna, right? Tif kodna. So this is clearly the nifal, not the cal. And so how am I going to translate this? 3 FP, subject is they. 2 FP, you or y'all. And then imperfect, nifal, got to make it passive, will be appointed. Okay?
In the cases where we have imperfects, can they also be justice?
Yes. So where we have imperfects, remember, the justice is also a possibility. Since we're just doing individual isolated forms, you have no context. So go with the imperfect where that's the case. Number 10 is just a leftover from chapter 24, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, yes, question.
How do you want us to use the Nifal when we do the test? Like the way you do it, like NI would be okay.
Yeah, NI or NIPH is how people usually abbreviate that. Okay, let's take a look at the Ross homework now. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. Let's do that. All right, so what questions on the Ross chapter 26 homework do you want to go through? Number 1. Okay, so take a look here. I have ikavara. Ikavara. Do you see 3 root letters here? Possible root letters? Yeah, kavar. What does kavar mean in the cal? To bury, which I could have a direct object for that, right? He buried his cat. A dead cat. If you like cats, I'm sorry. Now, look at the ikabara here. This is a prefix aleph for the first common singular. But look at the vowel pointing with root 1. Is that characteristic of a cal or a nifal kind of imperfect or prefix conjugation? Yeah, that's looking nifal, right? Doubling dot, comment. But look, I not only have the prefix aleph, but I have the comments hey here. What is that? If I see a prefix aleph and a comment hey at the end, that's not the imperfect 1CS. It's a volitional form. It's the cohortative 1CS. Remember that? So I need to give this cohortative semantics. So normally in the cal, let me do something. But if this is passive, it's not let me do something, but let me be done, right? Let something happen to me. Let me not bury, but let me be buried. Exactly. So let me be buried. May I be buried? May I be buried where? Bekever. In a grave. Now look at what I have here. I have avotai. This, as you notice, doesn't have an article at all, right? But do I want to translate this as a grave or the grave? It depends on whether it's in construct with something definite. Is it possible that this is a construct chain? Yeah. Now it's a segulate noun, so I don't see any vowel changes to indicate that. But it makes a whole lot better sense to treat it as a construct chain so that I can tie the two together and make this one definite. Let me be buried in the grave of avotai, my fathers, plural. Now that makes good sense. If I don't think it's a construct chain, then I have a problem. Let me be buried in a grave, and then I just have the word my fathers hanging out doing nothing. Okay. And when the fathers are doing nothing, that's a bad sign. Okay, so let me be buried in the grave of my fathers, Ba'eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. Here's another construct chain, but the first form you can't really tell, right? But there's no article here. But in my translation, I don't want to say in a land, right? It's in the land. Why do I get to make it definite? Because it's in construct with a definite noun. So in the land of Israel. Okay, so there you go. Other questions?
Why is the olive at the very start of that one not have a single?
The olive. Oh yeah. So you could have a kirik over here or a segol. Both of those are going to be possible with the nifal. All right. Number 4. Here we have number 4, vayishma. Vayishma. Is that a nifal looking kind of prefix form? No, the nifal would have not only the prefix yod, but it would have a doubling dot and a kametz here, right? But it doesn't. So this is not the nifal, it's the what? It's the kal. It's the one you've come to know and love, right? So let's get rid of that. Okay, so it's the kal. So what's the kal of shema mean? To hear. If it were nifal, it would be to be heard, but this is the kal. And it's got a vav, pathak, and a doubling dot in the yod. Is that present, past, or future? It's past because this is a vayiktol or a WCI. So, and who heard? He heard. Now, do I have an explicit subject over here following the verb? Yeah, ha'adam, right? So, and the man heard. What did he hear? Et kol Elohim. The voice, or what else could kol be translated as? Could be the sound as well. Okay? So he heard the voice or the sound of God. Now, why am I saying the here? That's right. We're taking this as a construct chain where God is a definite person, right? So the voice of God or the sound of God. Where? Bagan? In the garden. That's right. And then we have vayisater. Vayisater. Is that another vayiktol or WCI form? Yep, vav pathak doubling dot. Okay. Now look at the vowel pointing here. I have a doubling dot in root 1 and a kametz under it. That's not a cal, is it? It's a nifal, WCI. Yod in the front, no ending, that's 3ms. Now, what does the nifal of sathar mean? To hide oneself. This probably has the reflexive idea or just the intransitive idea. So, and he hid himself, betoch ha'etzim. What's betoch mean? In the midst of. This is the noun tavech that we learned that becomes tok in the construct. Okay, tavech becomes tok, like mavith becomes mot. Okay, so betoch in the midst of ha'etzim. This is one of your newer vocabulary words. Eitz is wood, etzim, or trees. So in the midst of the trees. So he ducked behind a tree. Probably a sequoia or something. Those are big. All right. Other questions?
On number 8, I was having trouble figuring out which was the subject and which was the object. Just the nouns, I was having trouble figuring out which one was which.
Yeah, okay. Well, in number 7, we have yishapatu, right? You see that vowel pointing here with the doubling dot and the kametz under root 1? Okay. That tells you it's what? What's them? Cal or nifal? It's nifal, okay? So what I'm going to be asking myself is this a passive verb then? Because if it's passive, I'm not going to have a direct object. Okay? So if it's passive, it's they will be, or it could be jussive with this na particle. That's a particle of entreaty, which usually accompanies a volitional form. So it probably should be understood as a jussive. Okay? And with the yod prefix and the shurik, it's 3 MP. So let them not judge, but let them be judged. Okay? Let them be judged. Let them be judged. B'mishpat Adonai. With. This is an instrumental use of the bet. So probably not in, but by. Let them be judged by the judgment or with the judgment of Yahweh. Ki. Why? Because tzaddik hu. Because righteous is he. I'm going to add the copula in my translation because it's missing though. Okay. So because he is righteous. All right. So there is no direct object here at all. It's passive, so it can't take a direct object anyway. So the subject is just an implied they that's not explicitly marked in the sentence.
I meant to ask for number 8.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. No worries. Real quickly, lo yikare od shimcha. Okay, Yaakov. So here, the subject is the subject of this. So, your name will not be called Jacob. Okay, your name will not be called Jacob. This is the passive version of this type of an active sentence. X will call your name. Okay, and then Jacob. Okay, so your name is the direct object, right? And Jacob is what you call the name. So when you make it passive, this becomes the subject. Your name, and then it's will be called, right? And then Jacob is still going to have its same function as what the name will be called. All right. Oh, and then but, this is the key. But Israel will your name be called. So again, Shemecha is still the subject, but your name will be called Israel, right? So these two proper nouns are the things that the name is called. All right, we'll stop there.